Oh my gosh, are you fudging me? Hello, hello. Whoa, that just that wasn't good. Anyway, I hope you're doing all right. I hope everything is going well. Tonight, we're going to talk about bystanders. One of the reasons we're going to talk about them is because I'm working on some stuff, some workbooks and healing stuff, and of course, the topic of bystander always comes up and witnesses. And one of the things I think, at least for myself, um, I don't know if other people feel this way, but some of the things that bystanders did really, really was painful and was really very hurtful. And, when you talk about workplace bullying, a lot of times, again, you're typically, generally, people talk about the person who's being bullied and the bully. And there's this kind of myth that is totally and 100% false about bystanders, as if they're neutral parties in workplace bullying. If they're not, they're as if they're not doing anything to show complicity or support the workplace bully. So tonight I just want to talk about a couple of things um, that bystanders can, and I'm also going to put this little caveat, should do. Okay? And if bystanders aren't doing what we're going to talk about, then that's a problem. And what that really means is that they've decided that the workplace bully has more power, and it's in their best interest to remain silent and to not get involved, or not intervene on the person who's being bullied on their behalf. Okay, so if you have a bystander, if you're somebody who's been being bullied and you have bystanders and you're wondering why they're not getting involved, it's because they've decided that it's better, in their better interest, to be kind of on the side of the bully, because they think that's going to get them further in their career in the workplace. Okay, so I'm only going to talk to you bystanders who are out there. You know who you are, you've seen it, and what you can do. And I don't take this as an excuse from bystanders that, oh, I'm afraid and I don't want to be bullied. Well, first off, do you think the person in your workplace who's being bullied is like, I'll be bullied? Just bully me. And the answer to that is no. First off, nobody in their right mind wants to be bullied. Okay? But when you are silent, you're affirming to the bully that their behavior is okay, and also you're allowing someone else to be abused in your workplace. And I have a problem with that, okay? Because no one deserves to be bullied, and no one should be in the workplace being abused. And if you're scared, well, contact me and I can help you develop strategies and ways that will get you past your fear to take actual action. And it isn't brain surgery. What we're going to talk about are not things like you're opening up somebody's brain and you're having to fix that. Okay, these are small tactics that you can use that actually nobody even has to know that you're getting involved. Okay, so first off, the first thing bystanders have to do is something, right? Do something. Sitting by and watching is unacceptable. First off, you're an adult, okay? And it says something about the quality of who you are if you are watching somebody be abused at work, okay? So the first thing you can do is, when it's happening, get up and distract the bully. Ask a question. Okay. Okay, I think I'm back. I'm not totally sure. So I think I may have cut out there a little bit. So I didn't really say anything because I also got distracted. Okay, so there are a lot of strategies or ways that you can avert the bully's attention off of the person that's being bullied. Okay, and that is little things. Um, little things that you can do is by, again, asking a question, making noise and trying to intervene. Okay. Yeah. So we have a comment. I'm going to talk about that too, as well. Is a lot of times when you do try to talk, when you are being bullied, you're the one who's being bullied, and you make reports. Lots of times those things don't stop it. That's because workplace bullying affects the organizational culture. And lots of times people in HR are victims of bullying and being manipulated. Sometimes they are bullies themselves, and they confirm what the bully is doing to you rather than stop it. And so they're often part of the problem, not the solution, right? Because, again, when we think about workplace bullying, if you generally, what people talk about is you have a bully in your organization and a person that's being victimized. Well, it's really significantly different than that, because it's not just about two people, it's about the organizational culture where bullying has become normalized. And I mean, I think a human resource person who is part of an organization where there's bullying, where they've had reports of bullying come in, and when you have a large majority of your organization or a department or a unit who is vilifying and identifying one or two people in the workplace, that is the quote unquote problem. So you have a we versus them mentality. The question you have to ask yourself, I think, as a human resource person is, why are you allowing that to go on? Because if you have that kind of mentality, that in and of itself is a problem. But I think that human resources often aren't the solution, because one, they don't have the tools to do it. And especially if your boss is the bully and that's their boss, there's really nothing they're going to do, because that person has their job in their hands too. And so I think if your boss is the bully, my recommendation is to, again, we always want to try to stop the bullying if you can, but you can learn strategies, kind of like what I'm going to talk about tonight with bystanders, is if you're being bullied, you can learn strategies and ways to reduce the harm and get out of bullying situations, and really strategize and plan your how you respond and what you do. And a lot of times that isn't going to stop the bullying, but it sometimes does, and more often than not sometimes, it reduces that trauma that you're experiencing. And if you are, I'm not a huge fan of just going in and reporting to human resources. I'm a big fan of planning how you report. So talking about what kind of documentation do you bring in? Because a lot of times what we end up doing is we've had an incident or a few incidences of bullying, and we go in and we talk to human resources about that, and then they don't want to look at our documentation or they don't take it seriously. And so you really have to make your case by showing them when it started, and how much bullying you've experienced. So really pulling all the, getting data and numbers. That's what I'm a fan of. So for example, if you're going to go into report, it makes a difference if you say, I've been interrupted 150 times by Bob in meetings, and rather than saying Bob continually interrupts me in meetings and doesn't allow me to talk, if you can say Bob has interrupted me 150 times in the last 2 months, and those interruptions have affected the way the team is able to operate, and productivity in our team meetings are down because of what Bob is doing. It's affecting all of us, and when productivity is down, it affects the entire organization. So I think what one of the things I recommend is you make it about you, because you want it to stop, but you really focus on how what that bully is doing is a domino effect to people's bottom line. So, for example, one of the things I used to say is, well, here's where our program started, the numbers of students we had when I got here, and now this number has decreased, and that's the bullying that's happening to me is also happening to students, and our reputation is getting out, and the numbers are going down. Now, did that make any difference? No, but I think it makes it about the organization, and it takes the focus off of you, you know. But I have a lot of, bystanders 100% are part of the problem because lots of times they keep their mouth shut, they remain silent, but they also engage in bullying sometimes. So a lot of times they'll send the primary bully or the primary aggressor will send other bystanders kind of to do their bidding, to send nasty emails or to attack you about your performance, to spread rumors and to gaslight. And why that's so problematic for bystanders to be involved in bullying that way is because not only does that hurt you as the person who's being bullied, but what it also does, it's a huge benefit to the bully. Because if there's more people then, first off, that are saying you're the problem, okay, and also you have more people engaging in bullying against you, what happens is then if human resources does try to investigate, then they don't know who's doing what, because the bully says, oh, it wasn't, Bob will say, oh, it wasn't me, it was, June. And June will say, oh, it wasn't me, it was Bob. And you have all these kind of people pointing fingers at one another, and they're saying that you're the problem. So human resources doesn't know what to do, and it just muddies the water, and it makes the case against you stronger, because then when bystanders say you're the problem, or they're engaged in bullying, or they say, oh, I don't know what's happening, then rather than standing up and telling the truth about what's going on, then that makes the case against you stronger. And oftentimes what ends up happening when you're being bullied, it's because bystanders don't stand up and say something, or they buy into the bullying and they're making calculated decisions to get involved with the bullying to try to get ahead, and they will also run to HR and report and say that you're the problem. So when you have more people, which often happens in bullying, you have more people saying that the person who's being bullied is the problem rather than the bully, and then that's just a difficult situation to be in. So which I think I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again because I think it is a good story. It really represents and demonstrates the point I'm trying to make is, I was in a social work faculty meeting. So in case you don't know, I was bullied by social work professors. The majority of them had PhDs. So again, it doesn't, so people who are well educated bully too. So this is, common is all over the place. And we were in a department meeting, and there were two of us who were victimized. We were sitting at the back of the table. The chair was at the front, standing and talking, and this other social work faculty got up and charged around the table at us. There were probably about 13 people in that meeting at the time, and three of us knew kind of what had happened, but all 10 of them, the other people, bystanders and other bullies, said that it was my fault, said that I was the problem, and that's not what happened, right? And HR did nothing. In fact, they brought me in, the two of us in later, months later, and said, I should wipe the slate clean. and that's because in that meeting 10 10 people kept their mouths shut, and lied. The other what they lied about it, so they didn't tell the truth, even though everybody saw her get up and charge around the table. So it's, I think, really very problematic. And in that case, and this story, what happened to me is bystanders in there saw what happened and didn't say anything. They were silent. So they are not neutral. Okay, they are definitely not neutral. And in that situation, they could have documented for me. They could have made a report to HR. They could have made a report to the police, because that was, physical violence. And so there's a lot of things they could have done in that situation, but what they did is they kept their mouth shut. And so then they confirmed that that kind of behavior, when you don't say anything, and this is where the problem becomes, and this is how bullying becomes normalized, is when people don't stand up and say something, then that gives the signal to the bully that the behavior is okay. And then the bullying just gets worse and worse and worse. It goes down the drain. And I don't, so even if you don't want to go make a report, if you're a bystander, you can document and nobody has to know any difference, okay? And you can go be a collaborative partner with somebody who's being victimized, and nobody has to know about it, because you can talk to them away from work, and the two of you can be collaborative partners. So and nobody has to know, because it can be part of everyday work life. So for example, if you're in meetings and I'm the one who's being bullied and I'm being yelled at, you can ask a question, you can interrupt, you can get up and do something to get the person to focus on you and away from me. Now, it doesn't stop the bullying, but if you're the one who's being bullied, even a 10-minute reprieve is better than anything, okay? And so you can help people get out of difficult situations. If you're having a nose-to-nose where the bully is yelling at you, having your collaborative partner come up close to the two of you can throw the bully off and get them to back up and back off. So there's a lot of strategies that collaborative partners can work together, bystanders, that nobody has to know about. Because if you're in a meeting and you're part of that organization, asking questions is part of the meeting. So you can use strategies like that. And you can make sure that the person who's being bullied is safe. You could have a safe word. You can check in on them. Even if you do nothing except smile and give them, just let them know that you know what's going on and that you're documenting behind the scenes. That in and of itself is really, really important. But it is not acceptable for bystanders to just sit there and not say a word. First off, and here's the reason why, okay? Because there is not a person who is working in a bully culture that is working at their best, okay? Because it is 100% stressful if you're the one being bullied, because it's like you've got this like little, it's like you've got just like when you walk in the door, like the bullying stress just attaches to you, and that's with you all day. And then when you're being bullied or something happens, then that stress goes up. And so it's like your body is tense all the time, because you become hyper vigilant about, one, what you're doing, and two, to try to avoid the bullying, okay? So you're not working up to your productivity if you're the one being victimized, but also if you're first off, the bully is not either, okay? Because it takes a ridiculous amount of energy to bully someone. So if you have a boss who is a bully, they're not doing their job properly, because it takes a lot of energy to victimize and abuse someone in the workplace. Okay? And bystanders aren't either, because they become vigilant about trying to avoid the bully sometimes, or even avoid the person who's being victimized. And then if they're engaging in bullying, okay, then that's that's taking time away from their job. Okay, so you're not getting 100% productivity when you have somebody who's being bullied. Okay, because it takes away from everybody. And if you think about human resources, that person certainly isn't doing 100% of their job, because they're having to listen to all these complaints about what's happening in that department where bullying is happening. Okay, and so bystanders are 100% the problem. I think part of the problem. And here's the reason why bystanders, I'm going to talk directly to you, why you should care about getting involved in working with the person who's being victimized, not just keeping your mouth shut, is because what we know according to bully culture, right, where organizations have had bullying for decades and decades, like hospitals, higher education, schools, okay? These places have had bullying. It's embedded into their organizational values. And what that means is people cycle in and out of those organizations. So victims and people who are bullied, they cycle out. New people cycle in, and when there's an opening for somebody to be bullied, that bystander, it might be you. Okay, and so there's role shifts, and so everybody should be afraid in bully culture, because when there's role shifts, the next person who's bullied just might be you. Okay, so that's why bystanders should care if bullying is happening, is because it could be you. Okay, the other thing that silence does too is, again, it helps solidify the bully's power. Well, by not saying anything, you're empowering them to keep going on and bullying. Okay, because they're looking around to see what's happening, and if they get a negative or they get some feedback, about what's happening, they're likely to, they might modify what they're doing. And I think we have this misconception about standing up to a bully, okay? Like it has to be some big, massive event. Like you're going out there and you're saying, stop the bullying. It isn't like that. You can be in a meeting and casually say, Bob, I really don't like it when you might say something like this, Bob, I like the sandwich method. Okay, if you're a bystander and Bob has just chewed on somebody, you might say something like this. Bob, I really appreciate your input in these meetings, but it is very distracting and disruptive when you're always yelling at Barb. Okay, and I want these meetings to be productive, and I'm sure you do too. But when you're yelling at somebody every 5 minutes in these meetings, we just can't be productive. Okay, it doesn't have to be any big deal. Just, I do like the sandwich method. Say something sort of nice, then tell them what you think about what they're doing, and then wrap it up with another sort of random niceness. Okay, and the reason that's effective is because, it's much harder to, bounce back to somebody when they sort of have said something kind of nice about you in the mix. Okay, and so you can, as a bystander, you can learn how to just say things like that off the cuff, because they're not off the cuff. You can think about what you want to say before those meetings come up. Because if you are a bystander, here's the other thing. You also might be a victim of my side bias, which is you have to ask yourself, why do you think about the person who's being bullied? Why do you think the way you do about them? Is it based in fact? Is it based in how you've seen and observed them interact? Is it how you've seen them do their job and do their work, or is it based on what the bully has been telling you and the gaslighting and lies and rumors that the bully has been spreading about this person behind the scenes? Okay? Because one of the things that happens with bystanders over time is you're a victim of bullying because they're lying all the time about the person they're bullying. Okay? They don't know how to differentiate the truth because they've made up so much baloney that they now believe. And when you buy into their gaslighting and rumors, you develop my side bias, which is just like police officers have confirmation bias. Is they already think they know that the person who's being bullied is the problem, and then they find things in your work environment to confirm that. Okay? And so you have to do what police officers have to do, is check their bias and make sure that their opinions and what they're saying about somebody is based in reality, not based in gaslighting and lying by the bullying. Okay? But the reason it's easier for you to go along with what the bully says is because you're trying to get ahead, and you think they're powerful, and you think by going along to get along, that's going to get you advanced in your career. Now, you might be right about that, but at what is the personal cost to yourself when you go along to get along and you watch your colleague be abused? Okay? Because I think, again, when you can watch somebody be victimized. So when you sat in those meetings, that faculty meeting where your colleague came around and charged at the table and you said nothing and you sat there with your head down. Now, if you ask my opinion, that says a lot more about who you are and nothing positive. It says a lot more about who you are than it does about who I am. Okay, and I know from myself, if I was going to hire somebody, I don't want somebody who hangs their head. I want somebody who speaks out. And I think as adults, yeah, it can be difficult to speak up, okay? But again, how you do it makes a big, big difference, okay? And you can do small things in workplaces that make a major difference. Because as a bystander, one of the things you can do is you can rally the troops as well behind the scenes, okay? You can talk to other bystanders and say, what if we tried this in meetings? Or what if we did this, right? And I think, again, building relationships with people who are decent human beings and not the bull. I mean, I'm sure bullies are nice, okay? I do have a biased opinion against them. But building relationships and developing relationships both on the personal level and then on the professional level, making sure that what you think about people is based in fact is really, really important. Because bystanders, again, you're not neutral. I don't care what people are telling you. That's just not true. In fact, I think bystanders are the biggest problem in workplace bullying and bully culture, is because often there are more bystanders who just go along to get along, and that then normalizes the bullying, causing more pain and harm for the person who's being bullied. And the reality is the next person who's going to be bullied actually might be you if you're a bystander. So it really is not only just in your not in your organization's best interest, but also in your own personal best interest to learn how to intervene and figure out a way to work with that person who's being bullied to stop it. Because really, there's more power than, people who are being bullied have more power than they think they do. And I think a lot of times when you're being bullied every day, everybody's telling you that you're the troublemaker, you're the problem. We believe that we don't necessarily have the power to do anything about it. And that's really not true. You have a lot more power to do something about bullying than you think. And so do bystanders. And bystanders don't get a pass. You have to do something. And if you don't do something, then you have to realize that you're on the side of the problem, not on the side of the solution. So, anyway, if there's something you'd like to talk to for me to talk about this month in October, you can let me know. I was trying to go through my list of things that I've talked about, and I don't want to repeat too much, but so if you'd like me to, do some like scenario, walking through a scenario of bullying or something like that, just let me know. I'm super open to ideas because I'm not always the most creative when it comes to ideas. I mean, I have my things that I really like to talk about when it comes to bullying, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's in your best interest. And I want to meet your needs. So if there's something you're interested in, let me know. But maybe on Thursday, I'll try walking through a scenario. Although it's very difficult to walk through a scenario of bullying because it's not a once off. Bullying is something that happens lots of times during the day, lots of times during the week. It's a repetitive problem. It's not a we just have a blow up and then it's over. So doing a walkthrough is much more difficult. But I'll give it a try, and we'll see what we can do. But I'm not going to make any promises. So if you have some ideas about something or a situation you were in, so I would never use your name and I change the details. Just let me know. So anyway, well, I hope you are staying safe. I hope you could understand my ramblings about bystanders. And if you can't tell, I still have some issues with bystanders. It really bothers me. Some of the stuff that the bystanders did to me was almost even more painful than what my primary aggressor did. But I got to let some of that go, and you know that I'm working on some of those things, but it is a process. So anyway, all right, I hope you're doing well, and I will see you Thursday.